Welcome, Franklin County residents, and thank you for tuning in to the Candidate Forum for Franklin County Attorney General Election held on November 8th, 2022. I'm J.C. Young, and I'm honored to serve on the Chamber Government Affairs Committee and your moderator for this forum. The office of County Attorney was first made a constitutional office under the Kentucky Constitution of 1850. The present Constitution requires an eligible candidate, amongst other things, to be a licensed practicing attorney for 2 years prior to the election. County attorneys in Kentucky have a difficult task in managing the various statutory requirements broken down into 3 primary responsibilities. County attorneys have a prosecutorial function. They work with district courts. County attorneys serve as a civil advisor to the fiscal court and county government, and they also perform miscellaneous duties for state government. Over the years, the office that you're seeking has become increasingly more challenging as the tasks continue to pile up, especially with the continual changes to Kentucky's criminal code and the amount of legal pressure placed on fiscal courts. I would like to publicly thank both of you all for seeking this office. In this candidate forum, we're honored to have Mr. Max Comley and Miss Kate Bennett. Before we begin, I'd like to thank and recognize the Frankfort Area Chamber of Commerce for establishing this candidate forum and the Frankfort Plant Board for hosting and broadcasting this event. Serving as our esteemed panelists and those doing the real work in this function are Frankfort Area Chamber of Commerce President and CEO, Ms. Tish Shade, Client Relationship Officer at Traditional Bank, and Frankfort Area Chamber of Commerce Executive Board Member, Ms. Annabeth Bobbitt, and President and CEO of Expree Credit Union and Chair-elect of the Frankfort Area Chamber of Commerce, Mr. John Graham. Questions that these panelists asked came from Chamber board members through a survey after we collected responses. Candidates will have 2 minutes for opening remarks and 2 minutes for closing remarks. You'll have 1 minute for responses to questions with 30-second follow-ups. You'll also have 2 opportunities to extend your time or rebut another candidate's response. This is titled bonus time. Please just signify to me you'd like to use one of your 2, and I'll grant you that opportunity. Both bonus times will be 1 minute each. We had a draw prior to the forum, and opening remarks are going to begin with Ms. Kate Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Young, and thank you again to Ms. Shade, Ms. Bobbitt, and Mr. Graham. Congratulations on the president-elect appointment to the Chamber, and thank you to the Plant Board, Kathy Lindsay, for having us here today. My name is Kate Bennett, and I'm running to be your Franklin County attorney. Today I want to tell you a little bit about myself, why I believe that I'm uniquely qualified for this job, and what the priorities of this office should be. Again, my name is Kate Bennett. I come from a family, my father's the oldest of 8, who have lived in Frankfort since the 50s. I spent my time in undergrad at Center College, then went to law school at Northern Kentucky University, Chase College of Law. After that, I began my prosecutorial career in 2011, prosecuting juvenile and child abuse and child support crimes in a small town in southeast Indiana. Had the opportunity to move back to Kentucky and served as the section chief for crimes against children prosecution at the Commonwealth Attorney's Office in Kenton County. As part of that, I supervised a staff of approximately 2 attorneys and a paralegal as we prosecuted all crimes, felony crimes that had to do with child abuse. In 2016, I had the opportunity to come home, and as part of that, moved back to Frankfort. And as that, I served in several roles in state government. One of those is the Deputy General Counsel of the Labor Cabinet. And in that role, I supervised between 50 to 60 attorneys on their day-to-day HR and legal needs that they had as part of that. I served again. I knew that my calling, and again, prosecution has never been a job for me, it's a calling. And as part of that, I decided to go back into prosecution, and in February, I had the opportunity and was asked to go to the Fayette County Attorney's Office to learn and to build more knowledge to hopefully institute it here in Franklin County.
Max, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Young, the Frankfort Area Chamber of Commerce, for having us out here today to be able to talk to everyone. My name is Max Comley. I'm born and raised in Frankfort, Kentucky. Graduated from Franklin County High School back in 1997. Was lucky enough upon graduating from high school to be able to go and play college football because of my academics and because I could play just a little bit down at Campbellsville University. I played at Campbellsville for 4 years, graduated from Campbellsville, came back home at that point in time, Worked 1 year as a special education teacher at Bonnet Middle School and coached football at Franklin County High School. And then went off to the University of Kentucky, where I received my Juris Doctorate in 2005. While in law school, I was lucky enough to be able to clerk with one of the fathers of one of my teammates from high school. So I clerked down at Logan and Gaines for 2 years, and when I graduated law school, I was lucky enough to get a job there. Worked there until approximately 2009, in which time I struck out on my own, and I've been running a private practice firm in Franklin County since 2009. Currently a partner with Bullock and Kaufman. Throughout my practice in Franklin County, I've got a lot of experience practicing in the Franklin District Court, the Franklin County Family Court, the Franklin County Circuit Court, in addition to the majority of the courts in the Central Kentucky area. I have extensive, a lot of cases that I've handled here in Franklin County and represented a lot of people in the community in those cases, and I think I have a unique perspective on the issues that are going on here in Franklin County and some things that need to be addressed.
Thank you both for your opening statements. The first question is going to come from Ms. Tish Shade, and it's going to be directed to you, Ms. Bennett. 1 minute response.
Okay. I have a two-part question. So what are your priorities regarding the opioid use in our community? And then I have a follow-up.
Okay, all right. Do I get 1 minute for this one first?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Priorities is the opioid epidemic has touched every single family here in Franklin County. There's someone, you either have someone in your family that has struggled with addiction and substance abuse, or it's affected you because you've been the victim of a crime of somebody that has been under the influence of substances. Curbing the opioid epidemic is an absolute priority. In 2011, I attended the National Association of Drug Court Professionals Conference, and I've actually built drug courts, these specialty courts, from the ground up. But drug courts are not enough. What we have to do is early intervention. And as part of this campaign of Galvanizer, I've got together a group of individuals, Reverend Whitlock from the Community Life Center, Bridging the Gap, the Wanda Joyce Robinson Foundation, each of these groups that we have this early intervention. And county attorney's office has juvenile court, and that's what they deal with juveniles, but we have to start earlier. Drug court is a necessity, but starting earlier and providing these community outlets for children, that is how we start.
Mr. Comley, 1 minute.
Absolutely. From the very beginning of my campaign, the priority of dealing with the opioid addiction issue in Franklin County has been of the utmost importance. From the very beginning, I have stated that we need a drug court for district court in Franklin County. Currently, Franklin County has a circuit court drug court program. However, there is not one for the district court. The circuit court in Franklin County may handle 200 cases as far as criminal cases in a year, if that many. The district court handles about 17,000 people come through the district court, whether it's from traffic citations, whether it's from misdemeanors, whether it's from felonies. So the ability to help more people, in addition, through my legal career, I've seen that people, when they get started in addiction, tend to commit smaller crimes first, which are misdemeanors, which the district court handles. And so my hope is to be able to start the drug court to be able to address the opioid addiction issue and other drug addiction issues sooner when people are first starting in their addiction.
Our next question comes from Ms. Annabeth Bobbitt, and that's going to be directed to you, Mr. Comley.
As legal counsel for fiscal court, how will you not let partisan concerns influence your guidance and recommendations?
I've been practicing law in this town for 17 years. I have never asked the first client what their political affiliation was before I helped them. Doesn't matter if they're Democrat, doesn't matter if they're Republican, doesn't matter if they're independent. What I want to see is Franklin County improve, develop, and be better. Regardless of partisan politics, quite frankly, I don't believe the office of the Franklin County Attorney should be a partisan race. I believe it should be a nonpartisan race. As people who are standing in front of the fiscal court asking for zoning changes or, voting on whether or not we get a park project or something like that, that's not a Democrat issue, that's not a Republican issue, that's a Franklin County issue. And so I just want what's best for this community, and I will never address anything in a partisan manner.
Ms. Bennett, 1 minute.
I echo the sentiments of my opponent on this. This job, in and of itself, should not be a partisan job. Whether or not you have the ability to enforce the law or advise fiscal court has absolutely nothing to do with what your political affiliation is, no matter what, excuse me, anyone suggests. And if a political affiliation plays a part in how you're advising someone as your client, which would be fiscal court, I believe wholeheartedly that that's malpractice. I spent a year and a half on the Franklin County Frankfort Planning and Zoning Commission. And as part of that, you have to learn to work with and be a part of each different viewpoint. And as part of that, I'm going to bring some of that knowledge that I had when I was on planning and zoning, but some of the experience that I had also working with thousands of different folks in the criminal justice system over the years. But absolutely in no way, shape, or form should any form of politics or personal opinion play a part in how you advise your client, that being fiscal court.
Next question comes from Mr. John Graham, and that's going to be directed to you, Ms. Bennett.
Thank you. What do you perceive as the most pressing issue that needs to be addressed by the county attorney's office, and how would you address it?
Thank you. I believe that's twofold, and they kind of go into each other, but it's children. But between the age of 10 to 12 is when many folks know that that's when children go from being parent-oriented to peer-oriented. So when we talk about early intervention, early education, early substance abuse treatment, it's creating that. I don't think anyone would disagree that it begins at the home, and what happens with your children begins in the home. But who are we as a community if we don't step forward in these instances, in these situations, and help kids, help them as victims of crime, and help them through the juvenile justice system? I believe that that's intrinsically important and very important to what we do at the county attorney's office. As part of that, it's also the enforcement of child support. We are over $2 million in just back arrears here in Franklin County as far as child support. That's money that could be ejected back into our community. That's money for families that are barely making ends meet or not making ends meet at this time. So as county attorney, my job, and I've done this in the past in different counties, but I believe it's a priority to enforce child support and to make sure that that unpaid debt is sent to the families that need it.
Mr. Comley, is that right? I've lost my place.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Comley, 1 minute.
As far as the most pressing issue that a county attorney handles, I believe that's the dependency, neglect, and abuse docket. The Cabinet for Health and Family Services will file petitions when children are in unsafe environments, whether it be because of neglect, abuse, and when you talk about abuse, drug abuse by parents, physical abuse by parents, and things such as that. So the county attorney prosecutes those on behalf of the Cabinet for Health and Family Services. I've been working in that court now for 17 years. So if we want to talk about what's the most important as far as what's to be most protective of this community, I believe that's the most important docket that the county attorney handles. With that being said, it goes really in conjunction with the drug court that I want to start here in Franklin County. Just about every crime that's committed in Franklin County has a drug-related issue to it. And so to be able to get people help, to be able to get people assistance, I believe it will help span all courts, not only the dependency, neglect, and abuse docket, but also with the misdemeanor docket and a felony docket in order to try to stop this revolving door that we have at the jail.
Great job. Ms. Shade, our next question is to Mr. Comley.
Okay, going back to the opioid use in our community, how do you feel about rehabilitation versus jail time?
Yeah, 1 minute.
I believe we've tried for a long time to arrest people out of drug addiction, and it has not been successful. So we have to look at it. We have to be able to get people treatment. However, in my experience, and working in these courts for as long as I have, not everybody wants to go to treatment. Not everybody that goes to treatment will stay in treatment. And so you have to have some type of enforcement or some type of accountability if somebody doesn't want to go and get treatment, if somebody doesn't want to go and help themselves. The only accountability that the county attorney's office can give to them would be sending them to jail. Now, with district court, it's a little bit different than circuit court because the longest sentence that you can hand out is 12 months. And so these are, when we start talking about getting people help, these are all people that are going to be back out on the streets and in our community and working and doing things such as that very quickly. And so we have to have some type of accountability along with the enforcement for the drug court.
Ms. Bennett, 1 minute.
As someone that sent someone to drug court last week, and that's actually a little bit, we have longer than 12 months. My opponent suggests it's 12 months, but actually you probate somebody in misdemeanor court to a term of 2 years in drugs court. So you do have the opportunity to get them to have more time in rehabilitation. We look at, again, back to your question, rehabilitation versus jail time. This might be a bonus time one for me as well. You look at two different facets. You look at the user and you look at the person that is bringing this poison into our community. We are dealing with two absolutely separate entities in this case. Now, the county attorney, how do we affect the user? Those are the folks that we see quite a bit of, those that have small amounts of opioids. They have small amounts of those types of things. Those are the folks that need rehabilitation. It's clear, jail does not work. But you know what jail works for? Jail works for those that are the people that are bringing this poison into our community. We do only, at the county attorney's office, handle misdemeanors. However, we do handle the arraignment and the preliminary hearing of all felony cases. And as part of that, the county attorney can ask for bonds to be set for those individuals that are trafficking in these drugs. Those are the ones that we need to offer, and we need to suggest having extremely high bonds to prevent these people from wanting to come into Franklin County and bring the poison into Franklin County and make them go somewhere else.
Great job. Our next question comes from Annabeth Bobbitt, and that's going to be directed to you, Ms. Bennett.
So what is one attribute about your opponent that you appreciate?
Well, I think that's a great question. Thank you for that. When we did our first forum back several months ago, I learned that Mr. Comley and I had a lot more in common than we thought. We both took a year off in between undergrad and law school to teach. We both were college athletes. And so it gave me an example of, you have to get to know folks to be able to know that you do have more in common with them than they thought. I appreciate his stance on drug court. I think drug court's an absolute misdemeanor drug court because, again, we touch 17,000 individuals in that community. But I think that, there are certain visions that we do share. And just, again, having the opportunity to get to know him a little bit more of a person and find out that we do have things in common.
Mr. Comley, 1 minute.
I would say the attribute that I admire would be her desire to be able to collect child support in Franklin County. Throughout my 17 years while working here, I've worked hand in hand with numerous families in order to establish child support, whether through custody cases or divorce cases or paternity cases. And I understand in speaking with numerous single parents, the struggles that they go through, in just trying to put a meal on the table, trying to make sure that their kids have clothes. And so I understand that struggle through my experience, and child support is important. Franklin County's collecting at a little over $2 million right now, when we should be collecting at a little bit over $4 million. So I want to put programs in place as far as helping people get jobs in order to curb that child support non-payment, which I believe we can do with discretionary funds. So,
Our next question comes from Mr. John Graham, and that's going to be directed to you, Mr. Comley.
So you just had the chance to say something nice about your opponent. What is the single biggest difference from you and your opponent?
1 minute.
the single biggest difference is experience. I've been practicing in this county for 17 years. I understand the legal landscape. I understand what's going on in the court system here. I'm the only candidate that's ever practiced in the Franklin District Court. I'm the only candidate that's ever practiced in the Franklin County Family Court. Those are the two court systems that the county attorney handles most. So one of the statements that she made earlier was that all felony cases go through the district court. That's not the case in Franklin County. All felony cases do not go through the district court. Some cases get directly indicted, some do not. So large trafficking cases typically do not go through the Franklin District Court. They typically get directly indicted. And so having that experience working here, having that experience with this court system, having that experience with these judges, having that experience with the local defense bar, I think is what really sets me apart for my opponent.
Ms. Bennett, 1 minute.
Thank you. Excuse me, and thank you for the question. I believe the single biggest difference is real experience. The only person that's sitting at this table right now running for this office that's ever prosecuted a case is me. I have prosecuted thousands of people over the past 11 years of my career. I have put people in prison for trafficking in drugs. I have sent people to rehab. I have protected child victims. I have not made a job of it. It's a calling. This is something that I feel very passionate about, not only for myself, but for my child. I choose to live here. I know my opponent makes a big deal out of being born and raised in Franklin County. Well, I didn't choose where I was born, and I didn't choose where I was raised, but I choose to live here. I choose to make this community better. We talk about experience again. He says the only one that's ever practiced in the Franklin District Court or in the Franklin Family Court, and I appreciate that. However, I have lost count of the number of district courts or family courts that I've had to practice in all over this Commonwealth. I bring a wealth of knowledge from other systems. In fact, I took a job specifically so I could learn more about how to do this job and to better bring it back into my community, into this community, so we can help our children. So I took that job to do that. We talk about connections with the local defense bar and those types of things. And I'm not part of that system. I do have a great amount of support from the legal community. However, this is something that change is needed. And I believe that's what uniquely sets me apart, because I am qualified to do this job. I've done it all over this Commonwealth, but I choose to bring this experience, this prosecutorial experience, back to Franklin County.
You have 1 minute.
When we start talking about experience, the Franklin County Attorney's Office hits multiple courts. They hit juvenile court. I've practiced in juvenile court in Franklin County. My opponent has not. They deal with dependency, neglect, and abuse court. I've worked in dependency, neglect, and abuse court for 17 years representing kids and family. My opponent has not. The county attorney's office also does domestic violence docket here in Franklin County. I've practiced in that domestic violence court. My opponent has not. The child support docket here in Franklin County. I've practiced in that docket for 17 years. My opponent has zero experience doing that in this county. So when we talk about experience, I think experience in the area where you're working is vitally important. As far as me being born and raised in Franklin County, I absolutely was. When I graduated from college, I made the choice to come back to Frankfort to work. That wasn't by happenstance, because I wanted to make my community better. The community that had given me so much over the years, I wanted to come back and make better. And that's what I've done for the last 17 years. And when elected county attorney, that's what I will continue to do.
We have time for one more question, I think. It's going to come from Ms. Shade, and it's going to be directed to you, Ms. Bennett.
Okay. What programs or policies would you bring as county attorney to reduce crime and increase public safety in our community?
Well, thank you.
You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Young. I've received the endorsement from the Kentucky Fraternal Order of Police, and I just found out last night that the Frankfort Capital City Lodge 8 is publicly coming, Fraternal Order of Police. Our local lodge is coming out and publicly endorsing me today. So I have a record, a proven record. I'm a member of the Kentucky Law Enforcement Council as well. I was appointed to that 3 years ago. I have a proven record of doing things to tangibly decrease crime in communities. And as part of that, again, we've discussed the opioid epidemic ad nauseum in quite some bit. But another thing that I want to talk about, and I think this is a small way that the county attorney, do we get 2 bonus times?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I'll use this one again. But I think another way that we can do that is with code enforcement. Buildings are falling down. Go take a look at the old YMCA next to Rick's White Light on the other side of the Singing Bridge. Code enforcement is a must. Now, that's not to say the job of the county attorney's office is to find out the why. Why are these things happening? Is it an elderly person that needs help, and then we hook them up with a community organization to be able to get them to do that, to be able to help them get in compliance? Or is it a landlord that has consistently not kept their property up to date and not be held accountable? When you have better property, it brings more people to the community, and it also decreases crime. So along with being a career prosecutor and being able to do that, but I think code enforcement is another little way that I believe that the county attorney's office can actually go ahead and really make our community safer.
Mr. Comley?
Reduce crime and public safety. The things that I've been proposing throughout the entirety of my campaign. A mental health court for Franklin County. We have issues with people dealing with mental health issues here in this community, which continues the revolving door at the jail. They get in therapy, they get in treatment, they don't stay in therapy, they don't stay in treatment. The next thing you know, they're getting arrested again, they're going back to jail, the jail has to deal with that. And the jail employees, quite frankly, in talking to Mr. Bonnet, they're not equipped to handle that. And so a mental health court to make sure that these individuals are being treated and to be able to get the treatment that they need, I believe is vitally important for public safety and prevention of crime. In addition, the drug court that I've been, the opioid epidemic in Franklin County is real. It's scary. We have a lot of citizens dying in this community, just about on a weekly basis. In addition to dying, they're overdosing, requiring police officers to come out, requiring other medical personnel to come out. And so I think on day shift now in Franklin County, I think they've got 6 city police officers, and I think on night shift they've got 6. So when we talk about people having to go out and respond to these calls, that may take 1 or 2 officers, so that takes officers off the street. Getting this drug court in place, getting people help here in Franklin County is what we need to do. And I think those things will greatly reduce the crime and public safety here in Franklin County.
We've now reached our time for closing remarks. We started with you for opening, Ms. Bennett, so I'm going to start with you, Mr. Comley. 2 minutes, closing remarks, anything you want to say to the Franklin County electorate.
I didn't make the decision to run for county attorney easily. You know, I've been running my own business here for 12 years and have enjoyed doing that, have enjoyed being able to help members of the community out with their various legal issues. But when I look at my children, I've got 3 children. I've got 13-year-old twins, and I've got a 20-year-old. And I want to be able to make the community better for them to be able to move back to. The same community that I grew up in that was safe, where, you know, you could ride your bike to the nearest convenience store or ride your bike, you know, just about wherever you wanted to go and not have to worry about the problems that these kids are today. We've got bullying going on in schools that I want to address. We've got social media pressures that these kids are facing every day. And I want to be able to do this to help the community out because it has given so much to me. You know, I've been practicing here for 17 years. I've seen the problems that this community is facing. I've seen the evolution of the drug epidemic throughout my legal practice. And quite frankly, the drugs are getting stronger, they're getting more addictive, and they're getting more deadly. And so if we don't address this problem now, it's only going to get worse. We're going to have more of our citizens dying. We're going to have more of our citizens lost, not working. The tangible things that I want to put in place, the drug court and the mental health court, will get people back working, will get more people into the workforce, which will economically help Franklin County out. In addition, I want to stop the revolving door at the jail, which will also economically benefit Franklin County as it costs a lot of money to incarcerate people over and over and over again. We have got to figure out a way to get this done, and I think what I've proposed is a way to do that. I would appreciate your vote on November the 8th. Thank you.
Ms. Bennett, 2 minutes.
Thank you. Franklin County has the 3rd highest violent crime rate of any non-metropolitan county in the state. The drug epidemic has touched every home in Franklin County. The choice is this. Do you want a candidate that is endorsed by the Fraternal Order of Police of this state, endorsed by our local police, or do you want somebody that has never prosecuted a case? I'm running for Franklin County Attorney for one reason: to protect our community, my son, and to build a better place for our families to live. Throughout, Mr. Comley suggests that throughout his campaign, he's suggested, that we implement these programs. Throughout his campaign, we do this. But the issue is, for me, it's not been throughout my campaign. It's been throughout my life. It's been throughout my professional career as a prosecutor. And please, I implore you as voters to talk to anybody that knows me and talk to them and see what we can do together. But I need your help. We need to do this together. As county attorney, I will have an open door policy. I've discussed the possibility of, and we will create a citizens review board to increase transparency in local government and to make sure that we are doing the right thing. The choice is clear. Real experience, real ideas, and real solutions. These are things that I've done throughout my career, and I humbly ask for your vote on November 8th.
As we close, I would like to personally thank both of you for seeking this office. You've put your name on the ballot, spent your own time and money, skipped out on family events only to serve your community, and I want you to know it's very appreciated, and you both did a great job. And I'd like to wish you the best in this election. There have been some election law changes statewide over the last several years, and now there are multiple ways for you to cast your ballot. There's mail-in absentee ballots, there's in-person early voting before Election Day, and there's in-person Election Day voting on November 8th, 2022. If you don't know where or how to vote, I would implore you to please call the Franklin County Clerk's Office at 502-875-8702 or check out their website. It's loaded full of current election information. Voting is a right in this country provided by our Constitution, and these election changes will hopefully increase turnout. It's been an honor to serve as the moderator and MC for this event, and I'd like to personally thank the folks that aren't on camera for all the work that you all put into this to make it possible. I'd like to thank the Frankfort Plant Board staff, the Chamber staff. That concludes this forum. Thank you for tuning in.